The night is as bright as ink and the sound is clear, and the Lin family compound is dead silent. The fire in the courtyard had already been extinguished, leaving only the charred walls and the pungent smell of blood. Lin Xiaoqing curled up in a corner of the woodshed in the backyard, holding her knees tightly with her hands tightly, and her body couldn't help but tremble. In front of her, there was still the same feeling of her parents lying in a pool of blood, and the cold sword lights of the men in black were mercilessly reaping the lives of the tribe. Why is this happening? She murmured softly, as if she was squeezing from her throat. The water of the purifier had already flowed dry, and the eyes were so dry that it hurt, but the pain in the heart was like a knife cut, and I couldn't stop no matter how hard it was. She is the little daughter of the Lin family. She was taken by her parents since she was a child. She is a martial arts family, but she is strong and healthy. Who would have thought that this peaceful martial arts family was slaughtered cleanly overnight? She didn't even know who the men in black were. She only remembered that the man in their head had his eyes as cold as ice. Before leaving, she said in a low voice, "If you don't leave the emperor's life will be difficult." Imperial destiny? Lin Xiaoqing bit her teeth tightly, and her fists clenched her fingers white. Could it be that the court took action? But the Lin family never had any relationship with the imperial court, and even had few grudges in the world. How could they cause such a disaster? Just as Hu Si was thinking, a sudden burst of footsteps came from outside the woodshed. Lin Xiaoqing felt nervous, and hurriedly held her breath and looked out through the door. I saw only a few men in black wearing torches and searched everywhere. One of them had a long scar on his face, and his voice was low and cold. That girl must have not run away yet. Thank you, I must find her, otherwise we will all lose our brains. Lin Xiaoqing's heart beat like a drum, almost popping out of her throat. She bit her teeth tightly and gently touched the jade pendant on her waist. It was the only thing left by her parents, and it was said to be a treasure passed down by the ancestors of the Lin family. She held the jade pendant tightly, as if she could draw a sense of courage from it. As his footsteps approached, Lin Xiaoqing knew that she could no longer hide. She took a deep breath and pushed the broken door of the woodshed, and while the man in black had not reacted, she shortened and rushed towards the dense forest in the backyard. Here! Chase! Scar's face roared, and several men in black immediately chased after him. Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth and ran wildly. Although she was young and had weak internal strength. After running for a while, she felt as heavy as a penis. The pursuers behind her were getting closer and closer, and she could even hear the sound of the sword breaking. At this moment, the jade pendant in her hand suddenly became hot, as if it was ignited by something, which made her almost relaxed. This is... Lin Xiaoqing was stunned and looked down, only to see a faint light appearing on the jade pendant. Then, an inexplicable force stormed into her palm from the jade pendant, and penetrated her whole body. In her brain, there were a series of complex pictures, like the direction of the human body. Each acupoint was marked clearly, and there were some obscure words that were difficult to understand, as if teaching her how to exercise her. Pictures of the acupoints. Lin Xiaoqing was shocked. Although she didn't understand what this was, she could feel that the true atmosphere in her body suddenly burst out. Her originally heavy legs seemed to have been injected with new force, and her speed suddenly accelerated. Why is this girl suddenly so fast? The scar behind her was shocked and gritted her teeth and accelerated, but Lin Xiaoqing's figure had turned into a shadow, and the distance was widened by several ups and downs. Lin Xiaoqing was both surprised and panicked. The pictures in this jade pendant could instantly improve her skills. She didn't dare to think too much, but just tried her best to move forward. The terrain is complex in the deep forest. She specializes in the diamonds where the thorns are born. Although her body is covered with scars, she at least left several pursuers behind. But just when she thought she could catch her breath, she suddenly came forward and sneered, "I ran quite fast, but unfortunately, you can't escape today." Lin Xiaoqing stopped suddenly and looked up. She saw a man in a robe standing on the hillside near the distance, holding a long knife in his hand, his eyes as cold as a poisonous snake. There were several men in black following him, and it was obvious that there had been ambush. "Who are you?" Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth and asked, with a trembling sound. The man snorted coldly and walked down the hillside. "I'm so grateful, I'm here to act on my order. The little girl from the Lin family, hand over what you have in your hands, or maybe I can give you some fun." Lin Xiaoqing's heart sank. She had heard of the name Xia. She was a horned dog from the court and specialized in doing things for the emperor that he could not see. It seems that the mastermind behind the scenes of the gate really cannot get in with the court. "I have nothing." Lin Xiaoqing bit her teeth and subconsciously protected the jade pendant on her waist. Hard-mouthed. Xia sneered and signaled to the man in black behind him, "Go ahead, capture her alive." Several men in black immediately rushed up. Lin Xiaoqing knew that she could not escape, so she gritted her teeth, pulled out a short dagger from her waist, and held it tightly with her backhand. Although her martial arts are mediocre, the air slugs in the brain are extremely clear at this moment, as if she is instinctively guiding her movements. "Drink." She sniffed softly, and her figure flashed. She actually avoided the knife of the first man in black from a different angle. At the same time, she quickly pulled the dagger and directly slashed the other party's arm, and the blood was rushing out. "Ah!" The man in black cried out in pain, covered his arms and retreated, full of surprise. "Why is this sudden so bad?" Xia face also changed slightly, and he obviously didn't expect Lin Xiaoqing to be so rude. But he quickly snorted coldly, "Carry a little trick, continue." Lin Xiaoqing's heart beat like a drum. Although she had just succeeded, she knew that she had a weak foundation and could not last long with internal force. While the other party was not completely surrounded, she stomped her feet and used the light work of the graphic image to penetrate into the deep forest again. This time, Xia caught up with him, and his martial arts were far above those men in black. Lin Xiaoqing quickly felt a strong sense of pressure behind her. She bit her teeth tightly and ran as hard as she could. She was accidentally knocked down by a stone head, and she fell into a thorn. "Humph, can't you run away?" Xia walked closer with a sneer, and the long sword had already risen, and the sword light flashed with a cold light under the moonlight. Lin Xiaoqing felt a sudden heart. Could it be that he really wanted to die here? But at this moment, a sound came from the sides suddenly and said, "Stop." Before the words finished, a silver light flashed over, and Xia long sword was beaten by a long silver spear, making a crisp sound. Xia was surprised and turned his head suddenly, only to see a woman in blue standing far away, holding a bamboo flute in her hand. Her eyes were cold and her temperament was dirty. "Who are you? You dare to hurt me?" Xia shouted angrily. The woman in green smiled faintly and her voice was crisp. "My name is Minxian. When you pass by this place, you must not bully the less. If you force this little sister down there, don't blame me for being rude." Lin Xiaoqing stared at the woman who suddenly appeared, and a burst of hope arose in her heart. She stood up and said in a low voice, "I thank my sister for help." Minxian glanced at her, looked lightly, and then turned to Xia. "What, the people from the court, don't even let go of any girl?" Xia face darkened, and he obviously didn't want to say more, and he said, "Get away." Several men in black dared not say much, and hurriedly followed Xia to retreat into the forest, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lin Xiaoqing felt relieved, and suddenly felt dizzy. The injury and physical overdrawn just now made her unable to hold on anymore and fell down. "Hey, why are you?" Minxian hurriedly supported her, checked her injuries, and said with a brow, "I was so wounded that I was overdrawn, and I had to get hurt quickly." Lin Xiaoqing opened her eyes tightly and said in a low voice, "Thank you. My name is Lin Xiaoqing." Minxian smiled and patted her shoulder lightly. "Don't talk, follow me first. I'm a doctor and will cure your injuries." Lin Xiaoqing pointed a little, and a warm feeling surged in her heart. Although she just got married into the drama of the destruction of her family, the appearance of this strange woman made her feel that she was not alone. Under Minxuan's help, the two of them arrived at a secret cave. Min Xian took out the pharmacy she had with her body, and carefully treated Lin Xiaoqing's wounds, and at the same time she used silver bullets to help her clear her vagina. Lin Xiaoqing felt a clear and refreshing air flowing into her body, and the original fatigue and pain were relieved a lot. "Sister, are you a doctor?" Lin Xiaoqing couldn't help asking. Min Xian smiled and said, "The doctor of the gods dare not behave, but he just learned some medical treatment. You are not seriously injured, you will be fine after a few days of rest. But you should have many enemies when you were chased, right? Can you tell me what's going on?" Lin Xiaoqing was silent for a while, and finally gritted her teeth and said, "My family was destroyed by people from the court. I don't know why, but they seem to be looking for something. I must live, find out the truth, and avenge my parents." Min Xian heard it, and she had a flash of sympathy in her eyes. She gently held her hand, "Little sister, from now on, you will not be alone. I also have some things to do. If we don't bother with it, we will join our sisters and walk this world together, how about it?" Lin Xiaoqing was stunned for a moment, and then her eyes were red, and she looked at her head with many points. "Okay, sister." The night was getting deeper, and a bonfire was burning in the cave, reflecting the faces of the two girls. Lin Xiaoqing tightly held the jade pendant on her waist, and a flame ignited in her heart. She knew that the road to revenge was still long, but she would not retreat. Whether it is the court or the world, she has to find out the truth about the door and let those who harm her family pay the price. The bonfire in the cave fell to an end, leaving only a few faint Mars jumping in the dark. Lin Xiaoqing leaned against the cave wall. Although the wound was not severe under Minxuan's treatment, the pain in his heart had not diminished at all. She looked down at the jade pendant on her waist, rubbing her fingertips lightly, and the strange patterns of the acupoints in the sea of her brain were repeatedly flashed. "Xiaoqing, don't think too much. Stay up well. We have something to do tomorrow." Min Xian sat aside, packing the pharmacy box, and her voice was gentle and determined. "I heard that there is a black market in the world nearby, and you can buy any news, or maybe you can find some traces about your door." Lin Xiaoqing's eyes lit up and she suddenly sat up straight. "Black market? Then let's go quickly. I must know who did it." Min Xian lightly looked at her head and smiled. "Don't worry, the fish dragons in the black market are mixed, we have to be careful. If you set out tomorrow morning, I will teach you a few self-defense moves first so that you won't be chased and run around the mountains." Lin Xiaoqing slapped her head embarrassedly and immediately pointed it seriously. The next night, Min Xian taught her a few tricks of flexible body avoidance. Although it was not profound, she was practical. Lin Xiaoqing learned very quickly, especially the air gate of the graphic image in the brain, which made her movements much more sensitive than before. It was dawning, and the two of them packed their bags and headed towards the black market. Sure, Min Xian said that this black market is hidden in a broken town deep in the valley. It is an ordinary trading place on the surface, but it actually hides mystery, information from the world, rare treasures, and even business that kills people and kills people can all be found here. Along the way, Lin Xiaoqing was both nervous and looking forward to it. She has never touched such a dark side of the world, but in order to find out the truth about the door, she is willing to try anything. After most of the time, the two finally arrived at a deserted valley, where you could see the silhouette of the town from afar. The town was broken and people came, and there was a strange noise in the air. "Touch me, don't talk." Min Xian dinged in a low voice, then pulled Lin Xiaoqing into the crowd. The two were wearing simple coarse cloth clothes and cloth towels wrapped around their heads, as unobtrusive as possible. There are indeed many different places in the black market, and there are strange things on the throne, from old martial arts secrets to spiritual magic medicines that don't know the truth or the fake. Lin Xiaoqing looked eastward incuriously, but Min Xian pulled her sleeve. "Don't look at it, let's go straight to the information." The two of them walked around and came to an inconspicuous alley. There was a broken tea shed in the alley. Several face-like Hanzi were guarding the door, looking at the people coming with a bad look. Min Xian walked over familiarly, took out a small silver from her sleeve and stuffed it to one of the sacks, and said in a low voice, "Let's find your boss and buy news." The Hanzi weighed the silver, grinned, and shouted in it, "Boss, someone is looking for it." Then he opened the way. The tea shed was very dark, and there was a smell of musty smell in the air. Lin Xiaoqing followed Min Xian and saw a skinny old man sitting in the corner, with a broken table in front of him, and a pile of messy papers piled up on the table. The old man raised his eyes and glanced at the two people, saying, "What news do you want to buy? Those who have the highest price will get it, let me explain it first." Min Xian took Lin Xiaoqing and sat down, and said in a low voice, "We want to ask about the Lin family's door a month ago. Whose hand is behind him?" The old man heard it, his eyes flashed a strange look, and he immediately sneered, "This news is not cheap. The Lin family matter is too big. He doesn't sell a single point less." 10 and 2 silver pieces were said to be huge money for ordinary people, but Min Xian took out a silver piece from the table without hesitation and threw it on the table. "Tell me." The old man took the silver stamp and said in a low voice, "The Lin family's affairs are a grudge on the surface, but they are actually the hands of the court." He heard that it was a secret order issued by the emperor and sent Xia Ting to take his people to do it. As for why, I dare not talk too much. However, I heard that the Lin family has a treasure, and the court is bound to win. If you want to know more, go to find the drunk swordsman, in Shito of town. He has been very close to the people in the court recently, or maybe you know some inside stories. Lin Xiaoqing heard the two words, ministry, and her heart suddenly tightened, her fists clenched unconsciously. It's indeed the emperor. She gritted her teeth, suppressed the anger in her heart, and asked in a low voice, "Where is that drunk swordsman?" The old man smiled and pointed at Shibei, the largest winery in Shibei. "He should be the one who looks for a prodigal son in gray robe. But I remind you that guy is not easy to mess with. He has no ability, so don't go to die." Min Xian clicked a little and pulled Lin Xiaoqing up, "Thank you very much." After the two left the tea shed, Min Xian said in a low voice, "This matter is indeed not simple. The court intervenes. We have to be careful. Before going to see the drunk swordsman, prepare for it first to avoid eating." Lin Xiaoqing looked slightly and was a little anxious. "Sister, let's go now." "I can't wait." Min Xian sighed and saw that she had a calm look, so she couldn't help her anymore, so the two of them went straight to the winery in Shito. The winery is extremely popular, full of the shouts of Hanzi in the world pushing cups and changing chickens. Lin Xiaoqing glanced at him and quickly locked a man in gray robe sitting in the corner. He was alone, with a pot of wine and a long knife on the table. Although he looked arrogant, there was a ray of light in his eyes. "Is it him?" Lin Xiaoqing asked in a low voice. Min Xian pointed, "It should be okay. Let's go and try it over." As the two approached, the man in gray robe glanced at them, sniffed at the corner of his mouth, and spoke in a daze, "Two ladies, have you got something to do with me? You don't have a fight in the winery, and you're talking about it." Min Xian smiled and bowed, "Min Xian, this is my sister Xiaoqing. I heard the news and I want to teach you a little bit." The man in gray robe raised his eyebrows and smiled, "The news is so clear." "Hey, it's so good to say it. My name is Lin Xiaoqing, the man in the world is called a drunk swordsman. If you want to buy news, it depends on whether you have any sincerity." Lin Xiaoqing couldn't help but interrupt, "We have silver. As long as you tell me, why did the court take action on the Lin family's siege gate?" Lin Xiaoqing heard the three words, Lin family zhuang, his eyes changed slightly, and he immediately put down his wine glass and lowered his voice, "This is not something silver can solve. You little girls, you are not a little boy, and you dare to ask about the affairs of the court. However, I had some clues and heard that the Lin family had a treasure called acupuncture point map, which could make people improve their martial arts skills. The emperor did not hesitate to wipe out the Lin family's door for this." Lin Xiaoqing was shocked, and his hands held the jade pendant on his waist in a conscious way. Could it be that this is what they are looking for? She strongly decorated and asked in a low voice, "How do you know this? What else is there?" Lin Xiaoqing smiled and leaned on the back of the chair. "Of course I have my way. As for more news, it's not that I can't tell you, but you have to help me first. There is a tyrant in this winery called Hainiu, who always asks me for trouble. If you help me get rid of him, I will tell you a way to the truth." Min Xian browsed. "Take up on the tyrant? What's the condition?" Lin Xiaoqing said, "I don't like being troubled the most. The guy with Jinyo is not weak in martial arts, so I have to do it. If you can handle him and prove that you have the ability, I will trust you." Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth and said, "Okay, I'll promise you." "Where is the iron cow?" Lin Xiaoqing pointed to the door of the winery. "Here, I just came in," the big head wearing a black vest. "Be careful, he is full of energy, and ordinary people are not against each other." Lin Xiaoqing looked in the direction of his finger and saw a burly Hanzi walking in, full of flesh and breathing. As soon as he entered the door, he shouted, "Lin Xiaoqing, don't think about it today." Without waiting for Min Xian to open her mouth, Lin Xiaoqing stood up and walked to the iron cow, saying loudly, "Are you the iron cow? I am Lin Xiaoqing's friend. If anything, please imprison me." The iron giant was stunned for a moment and immediately laughed. "Little girl, the hair is not strong enough. How dare you take care of Dawe's leisure? Turn it on, otherwise Dawe will hit you with one punch." Lin Xiaoqing snorted coldly, and quickly adjusted the air gate of the graphic diagram in the sea of brain. She could feel a heat flowing from her dantian and flowing through her body, her strength several times stronger than before. She sniffed softly, and her figure flashed. She took the initiative to rush towards the iron cow, and slammed her palms and slashed straight into the other party's chest. Zinnia didn't expect that she would dare to take action first, and was caught off guard and was hit by a slap. He stumbled back 2 steps, and was amazed with his face. "What a guy, little girl has some skills." People in the winery saw the situation and kept surrounding them, shouting and watching the heat. The iron bull roared, slapped his fist as big as a sandbag and smashed it at Lin Xiaoqing. She was flexible and avoided her, and at the same time she was looking for the other party to break the situation. After a few rounds, although the iron cow was powerful and incompetent, it was too slow and was slowly driven away by Lin Xiaoqing. "Drink." Lin Xiaoqing grabbed a gap and slapped the iron cow on the back. This palm used the internal force blessed by the scribble, and directly slapped the iron cow to the ground and could not get up for a long time. There was a burst of laughter in the winery, and the iron cow was full of shame and didn't dare to say anything anymore. Lin Xiaoqing panted heavily and turned to look at Lin Xiaoqing. "Is this time?" Lin Xiaoqing clapped his hands, and there was a flash of praise in his eyes. "It's true, the little girl has some meaning. Okay, I'll say that the words are. The matter behind the Lin family's door is the Emperor's secret order, but Xia Ting is a perpetrator. The real reason is, in addition to the picture, it also has something to do with some forces in the world. If you want to find out, you might as well go to Qingyun Mountain in the north, where there is an old friend who had some friendship with the Lin family that year, or maybe you know some inside stories." Lin Xiaoqing remembered this thread and a burst of hope ignited in her heart. She was about to ask again when she heard a hurried horse hoof sound from outside the restaurant, and then a cold voice sounded, "Go up, don't let anyone run away." "That's thank you." Lin Xiaoqing felt nervous. When she turned around, she saw that the outside of the winery was surrounded by a team of men in black. Xia Ting was standing in the crowd in a robe, with his eyes coldly slapped inside. "No, they are here," Min Xian said softly, pulling Lin Xiaoqing backwards. Lin Xiaoqing also stood up, picked up the long knife on the table with his hand, and smiled and said, "It seems that I will not stop today. Let's break through together." The 3 of them rushed to the back door and found that they had been blocked there. Xia Ting walked in with a sneer, and with a swollen hand, several men in black wiped out several small jars. After the jar landed on the ground, a heavy poisonous fog appeared. The people in the winery started to cough, and the scene was in chaos. "This is a poisonous fog, hold your breath," Min Xian shouted, and immediately took out a few pills from the slaughter and stuffed them to Lin Xiaoqing and Lin Haoran. "It can be detoxified after taking it." Lin Xiaoqing swallowed the pill and felt that her chest was clear, but the poisonous fog was too heavy and her visual line was blocked. The three of them could not get out at all. Xia Ting snorted coldly, drew his sword and pointed directly at Lin Xiaoqing. "Little girl, you are hard to fly today. I hand over the pictogram, maybe I can save your life. Make a dream." Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth, held the short dagger, and was ready to fight desperately. At this moment, Min Xian suddenly took out a few silver bullets from her sleeve and shot them at the most squid, while snorting, "Follow me." The silver slam broke through the air, bringing a slight airflow, and tearing the poisonous fog into a gap. Min Xian pulled Lin Xiaoqing and Lin Haoran, took the opportunity to escape from the winery, and ran towards the dense forest outside the black market. Xia Ting roared and chased after him, but the three of them relied on the familiar terrain and several of them rose and fell and left the pursuit. After running for half an hour, the three of them finally stopped and hid in a cave panting. Lin Xiaoqing leaned against the cave wall, feeling thrilled. "It's so hard. I didn't expect Xia Ting to find us so soon." Lin Haoran wiped his sweat and smiled. "That guy is the tyrant of the court, and his nose is very spiritual. However, you little girls are a little capable, and just that poisonous fog, ordinary people have already fallen." Min Xian smiled faintly. "I don't know anything about my medical treatment." "Xiaoqing, the Qingyun mountain trail that Lin Haoran just said, we have to go there." The court's attack on the Lin family was indeed not simple, and there must be a bigger conviction behind it. Lin Xiaoqing looked calm and said with a calm look, "Well, no matter how difficult it is, I will continue to investigate. Whether it is the court or the world, I will not let go of any of the things that hurt my family." The night was getting deeper, and the three of them sat in the cave, discussing the next plan. Lin Xiaoqing looked down at the jade pendant on her waist, feeling mixed emotions. What secrets does this picture hide? Why did the emperor want to get it at all costs? She felt that the truth about the door was far more than so simple on the surface. The fire in the cave swayed, reflecting the light and darkness of Lin Xiaoqing's face. She lowered her head and rubbed the jade pendant around her waist. Her heart was filled with flames of revenge, and she was also confused. Although the line of Qingyun mountain trail is important, Xia Ting's pursuit made her understand that the enemy will not give her too much time. "We must speed up our pace and find more truth." "Xiaoqing, don't be stunned." Min Xian broke the silence with a light voice, holding a rough map in her hand, which was bought from the black market last night. "Qingyun mountain is in the north, but the road is far away, so we have to find a foot drop to supplement it first. The city is nowhere far away, and it is the junction of the rivers and lakes and the imperial court. The news is clear, and you may be able to hear some useful things." Lin Haoran leaned against the cave wall, biting a blade of grass, and interrupted, "The city is not a good place. The court's eyes are everywhere, and there are many evil things in the world. You little girls, be careful when you go there, don't be sold or helped with silver." Lin Xiaoqing raised her head and looked determined. "I have to go no matter how dangerous it is. Since Xia Ting can find the black market, it means that they have been staring at me. Instead of being beaten, it is better to take the initiative to attack. Since there is a lot of news in the city, I may be able to dig out some secrets of the court." Min Xian clicked her head and closed the map. "That's settled. Let's set off at dawn, first mix into the city and find a reliable foot drop before talking about it." It was getting dark, and the three of them simply packed their bags and headed towards the city. Along the way, they avoided the main road and walked the mountain path. Although the speed was a little slower, they did not encounter the pursuers. In the afternoon, you can see the silhouette of the surrounding city, the high-pitched city wall. The destruction is filled with a wave of killing. The crowds entering and leaving the city gate are filled with many tourists wearing swords. "Touch me, don't talk." Min Xian dinged in a low voice, then lowered her scarf and mixed into the crowd with Lin Xiaoqing and Lin Haoran. Although the gate of the city gate was checked seriously, I didn't ask much when I saw the three of them dressed in ordinary clothes, but I just let them go with my hands at will. After entering the city, the noise of the city came over. There were stolen positions on both sides of the street, and the sound of selling came one after another, and the air was filled with the smell of wine and sweat. Lin Xiaoqing and Zhang Shiwang looked around and found that many people were sneaky in their eyes, which obviously were not good at all. First find a customer to fall into his feet. Lin Haoran said softly, then he brought two people to a conspicuous small customer. The guest boss is a handsy full of facial hair. When he saw Lin Haoran, he grinned and said, I haven't seen him for several years, and have you brought someone to me to avoid trouble? Lin Haoran smiled and patted the boss on the shoulder. Boss Zhang, just talk, open 3 rooms for me, don't say anything. The old man put the head in, collected the silver paper, and took the 3 of them to the 2nd floor. Although the room is simple, it is clean at least. As soon as Lin Xiaoqing entered the room, she closed the door and asked in a low voice, Brother Haoran, is this place reliable? Lin Haoran said with a look, I am old-fashioned, and I'm very serious, don't worry. However, no one in the city will believe it. Let's move tonight. I'll go to the restaurant to hear the news. You go to the night market in the east of the city and hear that there are often people from the imperial court there, and I may be able to get some traces. Min Xian pointed, okay, that's it. Xiaoqing, come with me tonight, don't urge it, listen to me. Lin Xiaoqing nodded, feeling a little anxious. She knew that the longer the time was delayed, the more urgent Xia Ting's pursuit would be, and he had to find a breakthrough as soon as possible. As night falls, a little lights lit up in the city, and the night market in the east is even more crowded. Lin Xiaoqing and Min Xian changed into coarse clothes, mixed in the crowd, pretending to pick goods on small trunks. Actually their ears were high and they captured the conversation around them. Have you heard that the court has recently set up a lot of people in the surrounding city, specializing in catching fish from the rivers and lakes? A middle-aged Han boy selling breasts said in a low voice to the people next to him. That's right, I heard that the court was so excited that it was about to clear out the martial arts families this time. Several small sects in the former family were killed, and even the living was not kept. Another Hanzi, who bought a bun, whispered a low voice, and his face was full of shock. Lin Xiaoqing's heart was shocked and turned suddenly, but was pulled by Min Xian, don't urge, continue listening. The two pretended to choose a braised bun, but their ears were not idle. Hanzi, who was selling breasts, sighed and continued, I heard that this matter has something to do with the emperor. What secret plan is that I have to give up all the masters in the world to feel at ease? The neighbor city is one of their starting points. I heard that I am sitting in the town. Thank you. Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth in a low voice, her fists clenched white. Min Xian patted her shoulder lightly and said in a low voice, don't worry, this news is important. It seems that the court has made a big move. The door is not just for your family, but maybe a bigger slander. Lin Xiaoqing was light and suppressed his anger, and continued to follow Min Xian to wander around the night market. After half a day, the two finally heard another key thread. Someone mentioned that Xia Ting had a secret point in the north of the city, and he specially used it to confine the people of the Jianghu who were arrested, and also stored a lot of secret orders from the court. Spot on the north of the city. Lin Xiaoqing's eyes lit up and she said in a low voice, Sister, we have to go and have a look. I may find more evidence. Min Xian said, this is too risky. Since Xia Ting is in the town, he must be very strict. We have to discuss with Haoran first. But Lin Xiaoqing was anxious and said sternly, Sister, time is not waiting for anyone. Brother Haoran will discuss it again when he comes back, and he may miss the opportunity. Let's go explore the way first, and don't act rashly. Min Xian saw that she was so obedient, so she could only point out, okay, but remember, if you find that you don't have the right way, please withdraw, don't force it. At the same time, Lin Haoran also heard similar news in the largest winery in the city. When he returned to the guest house, he saw that the two had not come back yet. He was a little uneasy, so he simply rushed to the night market and finally found Lin Xiaoqing and Min Xian at the entrance of an alley. I heard that Xia Ting has a little bit in the north of the city. Lin Haoran was straightforward when he saw it. I also heard that there have been many people in the Jianghu that have been involved in that place recently, and it may be one of the evidences of the imperial court's massacre of martial arts families. What are you going to do? Lin Xiaoqing's eyes turned cold and she gritted her teeth and said, Yefeng. No matter how dangerous it is, I will go and see it. If there is really a certificate, I can't let Dai Ting destroy it. Lin Haoran raised his eyebrows and smiled, little girl, she's pretty good looking. Okay, I'll go with you, but there must be a plan. Be careful and hardworking, so we have to seek death. We have to be smart. The three quickly formulated a simple plan. Lin Haoran was responsible for opening the main door to guard the door, Min Xian used medicine to confuse the patrol of the side door, and Lin Xiaoqing took advantage of the trouble to find evidence. The three of them agreed that if things were not done, they would retreat immediately and never fight. The night became increasingly heavy. The spots in the north of the city were hidden in an old courtyard. They looked inconspicuous on the surface, but there were murderers hidden around them. The patrol guards walked back and forth, and the weapons in their hands were flashing with cold light. Lin Xiaoqing and the other two hid in the forest of trees that were not far away, each preparing for it. Run! Lin Haoran yelled softly, then walked towards the main door with a big blow, pretending to be drunk, and shouted loudly, Hey, the people inside, I heard that you thank you for hiding the good wine and give me a coupon. Shuo was stunned and immediately shouted angrily, Where is the drunkard? He will open it. He will chop you up again. Lin Haoran smiled and deliberately stumbled closer. While Shuo was not ready, he suddenly kicked over a brazier with one foot. The fire was filled with fog, causing chaos in the front door. Several guards were busy catching fire, and more guards were pulled out of the hospital to check the situation. At the same time, Min Xian moved quietly on the side, took out a small bamboo tube from her sleeve, and blew it lightly, and a colorless and tasteless smoky smoke flew towards the patrol guard. Several guards did not react and fell to the ground, with no one in the side. Xiaoqing, hurry! Min Xian said softly, then pulled Lin Xiaoqing into the side. The lights in the yard were dim, but you could hear the shouts from afar, and it was obvious that Lin Haoran's feint attack played a role. The two quickly walked through several corridors and finally found a strict guard room, with two men in black standing at the door. Leave it to me. Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth and said in a low voice. She quickly adjusted the air door of the graphic diagram in her brain, and the true air flowed in her body, increasing her speed and strength by a huge margin. She suddenly rushed out, her body shaped like a ghost, and with a short dagger, she directly cut off the throat of the first man in black. The other one was slapped by her palm before she could shout. Min Xian quickly stepped forward and opened the book door. The two of them rushed in, only to see the table filled with books and letters. Lin Xiaoqing searched for a while and finally found a secret order with the imperial court seal, with the content written, The city of the border is to clear out the important land of the martial arts families. If anyone resists, the killing will not be discussed. The Lin family is only the beginning, and the list of aristocratic families is as follows. It's the emperor's fault. Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth, put the secret order into the storm, continued to search, and heard a rapid stomp sound outside the book room, and then a cold voice sounded, Who is inside? That's thank you. Min Xian was shocked, pulled Lin Xiaoqing and retreated to the window. But before the two of them could jump out of the window, the door of the book room was kicked open. Xia Ting was wearing a robe, holding a long knife, and his eyes were cold. The little girl from the Lin family is very cute, but she dares to come to me. Xia Ting sneered, and then he let out a few elite men and women's subordinates rushed into the book room and surrounded the two-person group. Lin Xiaoqing felt nervous, but she knew that regressing at this moment would only die faster. She gritted her teeth and pulled out the dagger, shouting softly, Xia Ting, you slaughter me, today I want your blood to be killed. Xiaoqing snorted coldly and signaled his subordinates, go ahead, capture her alive. Several elite men immediately rushed up, with swords and shadows, and awesome. Lin Xiaoqing took a deep breath, and the pictogram in the brain suddenly flashed a brand new set of moves called Flowing Shadow Palm, which was seen with speed and flexibility. She thought, and she was really excited to guide the picture, her palms danced like a shadow, and her body was shuttled through the light of the sword, and she avoided several people's joint attacks. Drink. She sniffed softly and slapped a palm on the chest of a subordinate. The man flew out, hit the wall, and spit out blood. The other people were surprised and attacked even harder, but Lin Xiaoqing relied on the cleverness of the Luiying palm, thrust left and right, and the palm was swept, forcing several people to retreat. Waste! Xiaoqing shouted angrily, and picked up the sword and rushed forward. The sword technique was fierce and he was directly at Lin Xiaoqing's vital point. Lin Xiaoqing felt nervous and reluctantly avoided a few swords, but the internal strength was not deep and she was still a little weak. At this moment, Min Xian shot out several silver bullets from her sleeve and took Xiaoqing's back. Xiaoqing reacted very quickly and avoided his side, but his attack was also cut off. Min Xian took the opportunity to pull Lin Xiaoqing, flipped out of the window, and ran wildly outside the courtyard. Chasing! Xiaoqing roared angrily, holding his subordinates and chasing him unwilling to accept it. Lin Xiaoqing and Min Xian were rushed into the yard and happened to get along with Lin Hao who was leading the way. The three of them fought and retreated, and finally rushed out to hide in the dense forests north of the city. Huh, so good. Lin Haoran gasped and wiped his sweat. Little girl, you just have a good palm technique. Where did you learn it? Lin Xiaoqing didn't answer, but just lowered her head and gasped, and her heart was a little excited. In that battle, although she was alive, she was able to deal with Xiaoqing's men through the new tricks of unblocking through the graphic diagram, which gave her a new understanding of her own strength. The road to revenge has finally taken the first step. But the three of them didn't have time to catch their breath. A smile suddenly came from the deep forest. A woman in red clothes walked out slowly, her temperament was cold and her eyes were filled with inexplicable deep meaning. Who are you? Lin Xiaoqing held the short dagger in a warning, and Min Xian and Lin Haoran also showed off their guard. The woman in red smiled faintly, and her voice sounded like a clear spring. My name is Yan Ran, I am unintentionally an enemy, but when I pass by this place, I see you being chased and killed, I want to remind you some of them. Lin Xiaoqing's eyebrows, what? Yan Ran narrowed her eyes slightly and said quietly, Lin Xiaoqing, I know your goal is to assassinate the emperor and revenge the family. But I want to tell you that this road is far more dangerous than you imagined. The emperor is like a cloud, and he has hidden strength to protect him. If you move forward intently, you will die without a burial place. Also, the truth about the gate may not be just the culprit of the court. I can't tell you something. Lin Xiaoqing was shocked and gritted her teeth and asked, what do you know? Why do you help me? Yan Ran smiled, but did not answer, but took out a jade token from her sleeve and sent it to Lin Xiaoqing. This may help you approach the master of Qingyun Mountain. Remember my words, revenge is important, but life is more precious. Don't be blinded by hatred. After saying that, Yan Ran turned away and her figure quickly disappeared into the dense forest. Lin Xiaoqing looked at the jade token in her hand with a low head, feeling mixed emotions. Yan Ran's words made her a little moved. Is it really as difficult as she said to assassinate the emperor? The truth about the door, can there be a deeper infatuation? Xiaoqing, don't think too much. Min Xian patted her shoulder lightly, her voice softly, no matter how dangerous it is, I will accompany you. Let's go back to the guest first, sort out the ropes, and then decide on the next step. Lin Haoran also pointed, the woman came here and said it was both very good and could not trust it. However, the jade token she gave was useful, and the place on Qingyun Mountain was not something that could be entered at will. Lin Xiaoqing took a deep breath and stuffed the jade plaque into the sun, and a flame rekindled in her eyes. No matter how dangerous it is, I will not retreat. Whether it is the emperor, I will be too hiding my strength. I will not let go of any of the things that harm my family. The night was darker, and only the sound of the shark was left in the dense forest. The three of them took advantage of the night to return to the guest, and each of them calculated the next plan. Lin Xiaoqing lay on the shabby wooden bed, holding the secret order stolen from the point in her hand, and recalling Yanran's words repeatedly in her brain. The road to revenge was indeed more complicated than she thought, but she knew that she had no way back. No matter what is ahead, she has to walk until the truth is revealed, until the blood is destroyed. The wooden window in the guest house was squeaking by the wind. Lin Xiaoqing sat on the bed, holding the secret order stolen from Xia Ting in her hand, her eyes as cold as ice. Every word on the secret order was engraved in her heart like a knife, the imperial court's plan to clear out the martial arts families. The Lin family was the first victim, and the emperor was the mastermind behind all this. She gritted her teeth, and the burning fire of revenge in her heart was almost about to swallow her. Xiqing, don't keep staring at that thing, you're so scared. Minxian pushed the door in, holding a bowl of hot pot soup in her hand, and said lightly, if you drink some medicine, we have to go on a road. On the Qingyun mountain shrine, I have asked someone to hear it. The owner of the mountain swan has indeed had some old relationship with the Lin family, and may be able to help us. Lin Xiaoqing looked light and took the medicine bowl for a while. The bitter smell made her snail her eyebrows, but there was no trace of turmoil in her heart. She put down the bowl and said in a low voice, Sister, I don't want to drag it anymore. The ropes of Qingyun mountain wind are important, but Xia Ting's pursuit is getting tighter and more, and the court's traits are becoming more and more obvious. I want to go directly to the capital and assassinate the emperor. Minxian was stunned, and the bowl of medicine in her hand almost fell to the ground. Go to the capital? Kill the emperor? Xiaoqing, do you know how dangerous this is? The emperor is like a master, and he has a ban on military protection. We can't even touch the door of the imperial palace. As he was speaking, Lin Xiaoqing pushed the door and walked in. When he heard this, he sneered at the corner of his mouth and smiled, Little girl, the slutty is really a big deal. Killing the emperor is not a family. But I think the longer I delay, the more unfavorable it will be for us. Xia Ting, the guy, would have found this guy long ago. It would be better to take the initiative to attack than if he was beaten. Minxian glanced at Lin Xiaoqing with a smile, you are following Huzhua too. Going to Beijing is to die. Lin Xiaoqing leaned on the door frame and said in a slight manner, I won't die. I have some old knowledge in the capital, which can help us get in. Besides, although the emperor is difficult to deal with, it is not a piece of iron plate. I heard that the palace has not been peaceful recently, and the powers are fighting hard, so we may be able to catch up with the fish. Lin Xiaoqing's eyes lit up and she suddenly stood up, Brother Xiaoqing, do you have the ability to enter Beijing? Lin Xiaoqing pointed at the head and took out a yellow map from it and put it on the table. This is the secret passage of the capital that I got when I was in the martial arts world in my early years. It can avoid the city gate and go directly into the city. However, it is easy to go in, and it is not so simple to assassinate the emperor. We have to make a plan first, find a timeline, and walk a lot less way at a time. The three of them sat down around the table and started a preliminary assassination plan for the negotiation. Lin Xiaoqing pointed to several red spots on the map and said in a low voice, these are weaknesses of the imperial palace. The guard is relatively relaxed, but there must be masters sitting in the town. My plan is that we will first enter the city, find a foot drop, and then contact my old knowledge to inquire about the emperor's daily itinerary. If you assassinate this, you must win in one blow, otherwise the consequences will be unbelievable. Minxian pondered for a moment and added, I can prepare some myths and poisons, and I can put them on the table at the critical moment. But I have a condition that our goal is the emperor, and we cannot be hurt or innocent. The palace ladies in the palace are too supervised, most of them are helpless people, so don't let them die in vain. Lin Xiaoqing pointed his head and looked determined, okay, I'll promise you. The emperor is the culprit, and I will only take his life. The plan was initially formed, and the three of them packed their bags that night, took advantage of the dark moon and high winds, and followed Lin Xiaoqing's map to guide them towards the direction of the capital. The journey was long and several people were wandering at night, avoiding the eyes of the court, and walking for more than 10 days before they reached a deserted mountain outside the capital. Lin Xiaoqing took the two people into a secret passage, passed through the winding cave, and finally emerged from a ruined house. This is the east of the capital, not far from the imperial palace. Lin Xiaoqing said softly, then knocked on the back door of the house. A moment later, a middle-aged man with a bearded face opened the door. When he saw Lin Xiaoqing, he was stunned at first, and immediately felt a low voice, "Drunk sword, why are you here? Have you brought someone?" Lin Xiaoqing grinned and said, "Oldly, don't waste your time, arrange a foot drop for us. I have something big to do." Although Oldly was full of faces and was reluctant, he still brought 3 people into the house and arranged a side room. The 3 of them took a short rest and began to move separately. Lin Xiaoqing went to contact his old friend in the capital and inquire about the emperor's itinerary. Min Xian mixed into the market, collected medicine, prepared vaginas and detoxification agents. Lin Xiaoqing stayed in the house, repeatedly studied the pictograms in the jade pendant on her waist, and tried to unravel more martial arts and so on. After a few days, Lin Xiaoqing brought back a key message: the emperor will hold a flower banquet in the imperial palace Niyuan next month, and invited many powerful players from the world to participate. He said that it was to attract them and deal with the remaining martial arts families. Although the guard that day was serious, the inner garden was in chaos, which was a good opportunity to start. Lin Xiaoqing's eyes lit up and she clenched her fists. "Okay, I'll be on the day of the flower banquet. Brother Xiaoqing, can you get in?" Lin Xiaoqing pointed, "I have contacted a small helper in the world. They promised to take us in and pretend to be theirs. However, this helper is not very famous and unreliable, so we have to be careful." Min Xian, Jianghu helpers? Why do they willingly help us? Lin Xiaoqing sneered, "Help? They just want to borrow our hands to help them get better. I promised them that after the matter was done, they would give them a piece of silver." They called Heifeng help, and the helper called Zhang Haizi. His martial arts are average, but he is quite a good person. Lin Xiaoqing was slightly nervous, and he was a little uneasy. She knew that most people in the world had the interests first, and betrayal was common. But there is no better choice at the moment, so I can only take one step at a time. The days of the flower banquet are getting closer and closer, and the 3 of them are preparing closely. Min Xian has prepared several powerful aesthetics, which is enough to make the band army lose their fighting power in a short time. Lin Xiaoqing has brought out black suits and tokens to ensure that the 3 of them can successfully enter the inner garden. Lin Xiaoqing has learned about the sci-fi graphic pictures day and night. Although the progress is slow, she can feel that the last level of the sci-fi graphic is right in front of her. As long as she breaks through, her martial arts will be successful. Finally, the flower salute banquet arrived on the same day. The 3 of them wore black clothes helped by Black Style, wore tokens, and followed a team of men helped by Black Style to mingle into the inner courtyard from the side of the imperial palace. The inner garden is full of laughter and laughter. The palace girl is too busy shuttled through it, holding delicious wine and delicious food. The atmosphere seems to be relaxed, but the secret patrol rules of the band army are unusually strict. "Follow me, don't watch it." Zhang Haizi jingled in a low voice, and brought the crowd to a remote garden, pretending to collect flowers, actually waiting for the time. After half a moment, a sound of drums came from afar. Then the army banned the army and sent the dragon sank slowly. The emperor was wearing a bright yellow dragon robe and sat on the robe, with a majestic and stern look, and he also felt a sick whiteness. Lin Xiaoqing's heart beat faster and her fists were clenched unconsciously. That was her goal, the culprit of the door. "It's almost time," Lin Xiaoqing said softly, then winked Min Xian. Min Xian clicked her head, took out a small bamboo tube from her sleeve, and blew it lightly, and a colorless and tasteless smoke flew towards the band army that was not far away. Several band soldiers inhaled the smoke, and soon their eyes faded away, and their bodies shook, but they did not fall completely. No, this medicine has limited effect on people with deep internal strength. Min Xian was shocked, and then took out a few pills to prepare to enhance the efficacy of the medicine. But at this moment, Zhang Haizi suddenly turned around and sneered, "Take it." Lin Xiaoqing was stunned. Without reacting, several people helped by the black winds suddenly drew their swords and slashed at the three of them. At the same time, Zhang Haizi shouted, "Come on, these assassins are going to assassinate your majesty, hurry up and catch them." "Betray!" Lin Haoran shouted angrily and drew his sword to fight, but the black wind helped many people. After a few rounds, he was chopped on his shoulder and blood flowed out. Min Xian tried to use a silver bullet to counterattack, but was forced to retreat during the two major banks, which made her self-protection difficult. Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth, danced like a wind, and she reluctantly held on to several swords, but the opponent's attack became more and more fierce. She was soon forced to a rockery, with no way to retreat. "Ha, little girl, if you dare to assassinate the emperor, you are just looking for death." Zhang Haizi approached with a sneer, with the big sword in his hand, cold light flashing. At the same time, the band troops in the distance were already shocked and rushed towards this side, and the scene was in chaos. Lin Xiaoqing's heart sank. Looking at the fallen Lin Haoran and the trapped Min Xian, she was absolutely hopeless to swallow her. She knew that this time, I'm afraid it was really difficult to escape. But at this moment, the jade pendant on her waist suddenly became hot, and a strong heat flowed into her vagina. In the sea of brain, the last layer of the graphic image finally unblocked. A brand new picture unfolds in her brain, called The 9 Turns of Heaven, is a set of supreme inner and spiritual methods that can transform the entire body into one and emit 10 times the power of ordinary people. Lin Xiaoqing thought about it, and her aura was really moving with the pictures. Each of them made her breath suddenly surge. After 9 turns, her whole body seemed to be scattered and her eyes were shining with splendor, and her aura was as bright as a rainbow. "Zhang Haizi, you are looking for death." Lin Xiaoqing shouted softly, and her body rushed out like a ghost. The short dagger brought out a shadow and directly pierced a black wind to help the disciple's chest. The other party fell to the ground and died without even being able to scream. Several other people were shocked and rushed to attack, but Lin Xiaoqing's speed and strength were far beyond them. Her palms were like a knife. In several ups and downs, all 5 or 6 people who attacked her were killed, staining the bluestone road in the garden with blood. Zhang Haizi saw the situation and changed his face. He turned around and ran. "This girl is a monster, retreat quickly." But he didn't run a few steps. Lin Xiaoqing was already like a shadow. She slapped his back with a palm. Zhang Haizi spat out a mouthful of blood, fell to the ground, and couldn't even get up. "Say, who will instruct you to betray us?" Lin Xiaoqing asked coldly, and put a short dagger on Zhang Haizi's neck without any concealment. Zhang Haizi shook and asked for help. "Yes, thank you. He has known your plan for a long time and threatened me to sell you, otherwise he will give me a black wind to help you." "You're alive." Lin Xiaoqing's eyes turned cold, her wrist trembled, and the short dagger directly cut off Zhang Haizi's throat. She stood up and turned to look at the forbidden army that was coming from afar, a fire ignited in her heart. Although the assassination plan failed, her confidence increased by the breakthrough of the graphic chart. She knew that she was one step closer to revenge. "Xiaoqing, go quickly." Min Xian finally took off her body, and hurriedly helped Lin Haoran up the injured Lin Haoran and shouted at Lin Xiaoqing. Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth and rushed over to pick up Lin Haoran. The 3 of them took advantage of the chaos in the inner garden and broke through from the side and fled into a small alley in the capital. Several people hid in a broken warehouse. Lin Haoran was extremely injured. The knife on his shoulder was deep and the bones were visible, and the blood could not be stopped. Min Xian took out the pharmacy she had left, quickly stopped the bleeding for him, and at the same time sealed several key acupoints with silver needles to hang his life. "Brother Haoran, hold it." Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth, held Lin Haoran's hand tightly, and her eyes were red. Lin Xiaoqing smiled reluctantly, his voice weak. Little girl, don't worry, I'm very hardworking. You are just so good at your skills. Min Xian said in a low voice, he has lost too much blood and must be calm. I have some medicine to save my life, but in a short period of time, he can no longer move. Lin Xiaoqing was slightly rude, and he was full of self-responsibility. If she hadn't been determined to assassinate the emperor, she might not have ended up like this. Who? Lin Xiaoqing shouted softly, holding the short dagger, ready to fight. The door was pushed open, and a familiar figure walked in, the red-clothed furry, with a cold temperament, which was Yanran. She looked at the three wolves and said lightly, Lin Xiaoqing, I have said that it is not so simple to assassinate the emperor. Your defeat today was expected. Lin Xiaoqing snorted coldly, what are you here to fuck? Look at our jokes. Yanran slammed her head, took out a bottle of pills from her sleeve, and sent it to Min Xian. This is a secret medicine in the palace that can help him recover from injuries. I'm not here to joke, but to help you. Min Xian took the pill, checked it, and said, it's indeed a good medicine, thank you very much. Then she fed Lin Xiaoqing and took it. Lin Xiaoqing stared at Yanran with a brow and said, who are you? Why do you help me again and again? Yanran was silent for a moment, and finally opened her mouth, I am a man from the palace and I am inconvenient to disclose my identity. But I can tell you that I have a personal grudge with the emperor and I am willing to be your inner circle to help you complete the assassination plan. However, I have a condition, you must promise not to be innocent. Many people in the palace are involuntarily responsible. If you kill me, I will never help you. Lin Xiaoqing was stunned, and she didn't expect Yanran to propose such conditions. She pondered for a moment, and finally said, okay, I'll promise you. My revenge is only against the emperor, and I won't move anyone who cares. Yanran pointed her head, and her eyes flashed with relief, since that's the case, I will provide you with the emperor's detailed itinerary and the map of the palace inside. But you have to remember that Xia Ting has posted the Tianludi network. If you fail again in the next action, you will never have a day to turn over again. After saying that, Yanran left a small package and turned away. Lin Xiaoqing opened the package, and there was a detailed map of the palace, as well as the emperor's recent itinerary. She held the map tightly and a burst of hope ignited in her heart. Although she was disappointed today, Yanran's help added another life to the road to revenge. A few days later, Lin Xiaoqing's injuries gradually changed under Minxuan's treatment and Yanran's medicine. The three of them got together again and agreed on the next plan. Lin Xiaoqing opened the map and said in a low voice, Yanran said it right. The next action must be hit. According to her information, the emperor will hunt for hunting in Beiyuan early next month. Although there are many protections, the terrain will be beneficial to us. We must take advantage of this opportunity to regroup. Min Xian pointed out, I will give you some powerful drugs, and I will never miss this time. Xiaoqing, your injury is not complete yet, don't be strong. Lin Xiaoqing smiled and said, I can fight again if I have a little idea. My little girl, your martial arts skills have really made me look at you with admiration. It seems that this time, we really have hope to fuck that old guy. Lin Xiaoqing looked slightly, his eyes fixed like a thorn, no matter how difficult it is, I will let the emperor lose blood. I have no way out of this road until today. The night was dark and the oil lamps in the warehouse were swaying. Lin Xiaoqing looked at the map with her head low, feeling mixed emotions. The road to revenge has reached the critical stage. Although the road ahead is still full of thorns, she knows that she is stronger than ever. She will definitely win the emperor's life. The night is as bright as ink. Outside the hunting grounds in Beiyuan, the cold wind is wailing, and the shadows of trees are swaying, and there is a breath of death. Lin Xiaoqing was dressed in black and was tightly clamped behind an ancient tree. Her eyes were as sharp as a knife, staring at the entrance of the hunting grounds that were not far away. According to the information provided by Yanran, the emperor will hold a secret hunt here tonight. It is an entertainment on the surface, but in fact it is a plan to further clear out the martial arts families with several powerful people. Although the protection is very dense, the Beiyuan terrain is complex, which is the perfect time to kill. Xiaoqing, are you ready? Min Xian asked in a low voice, holding a small bamboo tube in her hand, full of her newly matched strong-acting vagina. This fantasy is more powerful than the last time at the flower-gathering banquet. It can instantly cause ordinary band troops to lose their fighting power. Even experts with deep internal strength can weaken their ability to move in a short time. Lin Xiao was slightly calm, and the jade pendant on her waist was slightly hot. The mental method of 9 turns of heaven in the brain flowed continuously, making her breath as stable as a rock. She said in a low voice, "Sister, you must not miss this time. You and Brother Howren are externally connected. No matter what, don't let the aid troops approach the hunting ground." Lin Howren leaned against another tree, and although the wound on his shoulders had not been cured, his eyes were still sharp, and the long sword in his hand was flashing with a flash of cold light. He smiled and said, "Little girl, don't worry. Although I'm not injured, it's still okay to clean up a few band soldiers. You are dedicated to dealing with the guys inside, remember, fight quickly." The 3 of them exchanged their eyes and then followed the plan to separate them. Min Xian and Lin Howren were trapped outside the hunting camp, responsible for intercepting possible aid troops, while Lin Xiaoqing quietly sneaked into the hunting camp along the path marked by Yanran map. With the blessing of the graphic picture, her skills have reached the realm of transformation. After several ups and downs, she avoided the patrol band troops and came to a secret shrub. In the hunting ground, torches swayed, reflecting an open space. The emperor was wearing a military outfit and sat on a large tiger-skin chair, with a majestic attitude on his face. He was surrounded by several gangsters, talking about something in a low voice, and occasionally laughing 2 times, clearly satisfied with the emperor's plan. Lin Xiaoqing bit her teeth tightly, and a fire ignited in her eyes. This man is the culprit who slaughtered her full door. But she didn't have time to move. After the bushes burst into pieces, a cool voice came out, and then a cold sound came out. "Lin Xiaoqing, don't be in a hurry to move, I have something to say." Lin Xiaoqing felt nervous and turned around suddenly. She only saw Yanran wearing red clothes, standing quietly behind her, her temperament as usual, and her eyes were filled with a complexity. She asked in a low voice, "Why are you here? Didn't you say you're waiting for news outside the palace?" Yanran whispered lightly, in a low voice, "I must come, because there are some things that must be explained in person. In the emperor's care, there is a person you never imagined, Xiaoting. He had long guessed that you would come to Beiyuan, and had already set up an ambush, waiting for you to join the Roman network. I came to take you to avoid his trap and approach the emperor directly." Lin Xiaoqing was browsing, and she felt a little uneasy. "Xiting? Where is he? Also, why did you suddenly take this initiative? I don't believe you don't have your own purpose." Yanran's eyes flashed with a flash of hesitation, but soon returned to peace. "You will know my purpose in the future. Now, believe it or not, but if you want to revenge, follow me. I know a shortcut that can escape Xiating's ambush and reach the emperor's side." Lin Xiaoqing was silent for a moment, and finally said, "Okay, I'll go with you. But if there is a little wrong, I won't show mercy." Yanran smiled faintly, then carried Lin Xiaoqing over the bushes and walked quickly along a secret key path. The 2 of them walked through several dense forests and indeed avoided several patrol teams, gradually approaching the open space where the emperor was. However, just as he was about to arrive, Lin Xiaoqing suddenly stopped walking and his eyes turned cold. "No, this road is too smooth. What do you want to fuck?" Yanran turned her head and a strange thing flashed on her face. "What does it mean?" Lin Xiaoqing held the short dagger and said in a low voice, "I can't believe you. I never met an ambush all the way. This is unreasonable. Yanran, are you helping me, or do you want to lead me into another trap?" Yanran was silent for a moment, and finally sighed. "Lin Xiaoqing, you are indeed smart. I admit that I have a purpose. I help you approach the emperor because I need you to get rid of him for me. He is not only your enemy, but also my enemy. But I can't take action because of my identity. I decided that I cannot openly be an enemy with him. So, I need you to be my knife. Lin Xiaoqing sneered, so you have been using me? What if I died? Have you prepared another scapegoat long ago? Yanran slammed her head, and a trace suddenly appeared in her eyes. No, I never thought of letting you die. The maps, medicines, and information I gave you are all true. I just implicit my motor. Lin Xiaoqing, now you still have a choice to believe me, continue to move forward, and turn back, but you may not be able to avoid Xiaoting's ambush. Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth and quickly balanced the pros and cons in the sea of brain. She knew that Yanran's words might not be credible, but the time is tight at the moment. If there is really ambushes from Xiaoting, turning back will only be even more dangerous. Finally, she snorted coldly, okay, I believe you once. But if there is a little wrong, I will kill you first and then make a fortune with the emperor. Slightly pointed the head and then continued to lead the way. The two soon came to a high slope near the open space. From here, they could clearly see the emperor and several worldly heads. But just as Lin Xiaoqing was preparing to move, a rapid sound suddenly came from behind the high slope, and then a cold sound came out. Lin Xiaoqing, it's you. Tonight, you can't fly. Lin Xiaoqing turned around suddenly, only seeing Xiating wearing a robe, holding a long knife, and carrying a team of elite soldiers out of the dense forest, rushing to the ground. There was a sneer on his face, his eyes as poisonous as a poisonous snake. Little girl, I didn't expect you to come and die. His Majesty the Emperor had expected you to come and specially asked me to wait here. If you hand over the picture, maybe I can make you die more happily. Lin Xiaoqing's heart was tight and she was completely disgusted. Xiating sneered and signaled his subordinates, Master, capture her alive. Your Majesty has an order, and the picture must be obtained. More than a dozen Ban army elites immediately rushed up, with swords and shadows, and their auras were imposing. Lin Xiaoqing took a deep breath and tweaked the 9 turns of heaven mental method in the sea of brain. The true atmosphere was in the body and the power surged. Her body was slammed out like a ghost, and the short dagger brought out a series of shadows. Each hit was precise and ruthless. After a few rounds, 3 or 4 forbidden soldiers fell to the ground, and the grass was stained with blood. Waste! Xiating shouted angrily and lifted his sword and thrust it. His swordsmanship was Ling Yan, and each sword was filled with powerful internal force, forcing Lin Xiaoqing to retreat. But with the blessing of the graphic image, Lin Xiaoqing surpassed the other party in speed and flexibility. She avoided a fatal blow several times, and at the same time she found a breakthrough in counterattack. Drink! Lin Xiaoqing grabbed a gap, slapped her softly, and slapped Xiating's chest with a palm. This palm contains the essence of the flowing shadow palm, which is so fast that it is almost impossible to see the spine clearly. Xiating reluctantly put his sword on the edge, but he was still shocked by the wind of his palm and took 2 steps back, his face turned blue and white. How is it possible? How can your martial arts improve so quickly? Xiating gritted his teeth, and finally a flash of surprise appeared in his eyes. He never expected that in just a few months, Lin Xiaoqing's strength could be improved to such a level. Lin Xiaoqing sneered, her eyes like ice, Xiting, this is for the blood debt of my Lin family. Today, I want your blood debt to be punished. She flashed her body and slammed her again, her palms were like a knife, and her move was fatal. Although Xiating had a deep internal force, he gradually fell into a downward trend in the face of Lin Xiaoqing's inverted speed and strength. Puff! In the end, Lin Xiaoqing slapped Xiating's shoulder with a palm. The strong internal force directly shattered his shoulder bones, and the long knife slashed his hand and flew out. Xiating knelt down on the ground, his face unwilling to accept it, and he could no longer resist. Say, who did the Lin family's door issue the order? What's the truth? I don't know. Lin Xiaoqing put a short dagger on Xiating's neck, and his voice was as cold as ice. Xiaoqing gasped and finally gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, I say. The Lin family's door is a secret order issued by the emperor. In order to control the world, he decided to eliminate all martial arts families. The Lin family was the first test product. He heard that the Lin family had pictures that could make people improve their martial arts skills, so he ordered you to slaughter and get pictures. Not only the Lin family, but also many small sets, are on the list of secret orders. I am just doing my order, please give me my life." Lin Xiaoqing was shocked when she heard the emperor's order, and her anger almost swallowed her. She gritted her teeth and her eyes were even more suffocated. "Operation is ordered? This is the reason for you to slaughter me and fill my door. Xiaoqing, you must die today." "No." Yanran suddenly made a sound, and in front of Lin Xiaoqing, the voice was anxious. "Xiaoqing, save his life. He knows more than this. Keeping him may lead to more secrets from the court." Lin Xiaoqing looked at Yanran coldly, finally put away her dagger and snorted coldly, "Okay, let's save your life. But if there is another half of hypothesis, I will take your life," she said with a slap, and then turned to Yanran, "Now, take me to see the emperor." Yanran pointed at the head and quickly rolled over the high slope with Lin Xiaoqing to the edge of the open space. At this moment, the emperor's protection was attracted by the remote romance, and there were only a few Jianghu and a few forbidden troops around the open space. Lin Xiaoqing knew that the opportunity was right in front of her. She took a deep breath and was ready to slam it out, but was pulled by Yanran. "Wait." Yanran said softly, with a flash of thrust in her eyes, "Xiqing, I must tell you, I is actually the emperor's far-following relative. I help you because I hate him for leaving everything about me, but I cannot completely betray my blood. I brought you here to give you a chance to revenge, but I also hope that you can give him a chance to change. If he is willing to repent, can he let his life go?" Lin Xiaoqing was stunned for a moment and sneered, "Have you changed? Are you still qualified to change if you slaughter me again? If you slaughter me again, I will solve it together." Yanran's face turned pale, and finally took a step back and said in a low voice, "Okay, I won't swear you. But remember what I said, although revenge is important, life is more precious. Don't let hatred destroy you." Lin Xiaoqing ignored her anymore, and her figure flashed and rushed directly into the open space. Several people in the world saw this and quickly drew their swords to fight, but their martial arts were not worth mentioning in front of Lin Xiaoqing, and they were knocked to the ground in a few rounds. The remaining band soldiers tried to protect the emperor, but was killed by Lin Xiaoqing with thunder, and the open space was stained with blood. "Who is this?" The emperor stood up suddenly, with a burst of shock in his voice, but more of his illness and weakness. He looked at Lin Xiaoqing who was rushing, and his eyes turned cold. "Are you the head of the Lin family? Humph, you are overestimating your ability, and you dare to kill me." Lin Xiaoqing gritted her teeth, flashed a dagger, and pointed directly at the emperor's heart. "Emperor, today is your death. The blood debt of the Lin family is full of the door, I want you to lose blood." At the same time, outside the hunting field, Minxian and Lin Haoran were fighting fiercely with a team of aid troops. Minxian kept blowing out a smoky to weaken the fighting power of the Forbidden Army, while Lin Haoran killed the sword. Although he was not injured, his sword skills were still superior, and he forced a team of Forbidden Army to be outside and could not get close to the inner circle. "Haoran, hold it!" Minxian shouted in a low voice, and at the same time, several silver bullets shot out from her sleeve, accurately stabbing the key points of several forbidden troops, causing them to fall to the ground in an instant. Lin Haoran smiled and wiped the blood from his face. "I mean nothing. These guys are not so hot. The little girl should be about to succeed, let's take another chance." In the scene, Lin Xiaoqing's dispute with the emperor was about to reach orgasm. Although the emperor was already unscrupulous, he actually had some martial arts skills and danced in his hands, barely holding on to several attacks by Lin Xiaoqing. But his internal strength was far less than Lin Xiaoqing. After a few rounds, he was panting and his face turned whiter. "Stop!" Yanran suddenly rushed over, between the emperor and Lin Xiaoqing, and his voice was trembling. Xiaoqing, give him a chance. He is my blood, I can't see him die. Lin Xiaoqing sneered, her eyes without any emotion. Blood? My blood has been slaughtered by him. Yanran, let it open, otherwise I will kill you together. Yanran's face turned pale, and she finally gritted her teeth and retreated. Her eyes roared, okay, I won't slap you. But please, after you start, leave quickly and don't let hatred destroy you. When the emperor saw this, he snorted coldly, silly goods, why should I plead for you? Come on, protect me. But his shouting had no response, and Guardme had already been killed by Lin Xiaoqing. No one can save you. Lin Xiaoqing shouted softly, her body shaped like an electric shock, and a short dagger pierced the emperor's chest. The emperor tried to avoid it, but the speed was too slow. The dagger pierced his shoulder hard, and blood sprayed out. He snorted in pain and fell to the ground, feeling unwilling to accept it. You dare. Lin Xiaoqing pulled out the dagger and prepared to give him a fatal blow, but a silk slut suddenly flashed in her eyes. It was not because of Yanran's plea, but because she suddenly realized that killing the emperor might not really end it. The court's tragedy, the tide of the world, and more innocent families, can it be hard to continue to endure such slaughter? But this silk snail was quickly pressed by hatred. She bit her teeth and said in a low voice, the blood of the Lin family's full door cannot be shed in vain. Emperor, today is your end. The dagger rose again, and the cold light flashed, and was about to stab. At the same time, Minxian and Lin Haoran from the outside finally retreated to the last batch of aid troops and rushed to the mainland, ready to meet Lin Xiaoqing. The road to revenge has reached the last step. Lin Xiaoqing's hands trembled slightly, but her eyes have never been so certain. Lin Xiaoqing's short dagger flashed with a cold light under the flames. The tip of the knife pointed directly into the emperor's chest, and the air was filled with a heavy smell of blood and a tense breath. The emperor fell to the ground, blood flowing out of his wounded mouth, his face as white as paper, and his eyes still had a sense of unwillingness and anger. He gasped and gritted his teeth. Lin Xiaoqing, do you think that killing me can change everything? The foundation of the court and the grudges in the world are far from being shaken by you, a little girl. Lin Xiaoqing sneered, her voice low and firm, I don't care about the foundation of the court, nor do I care how deep the grievances in the world are. I only know that the full blood of the Lin family cannot be in vain. The martial arts families that you slaughtered by you have countless innocent lives. Today, I will redeem justice for them. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were as firm as a rock. The flames of revenge were burning in her heart, almost swallowing her entire body. Yanran stood aside, her face was white, her eyes were red, and she begged in a low voice, Xiaoqing, stop. He is my blood, give him a chance to repent. I know he is a serious sin, but if you kill him, hatred will only continue to circulate, and the battle between the world and the court will never stop. Lin Xiaoqing glanced at her, her eyes cold. Repent? Are you qualified to repent if you slaughter me? Yanran, let it open. This is my revenge, it has nothing to do with you. Her voice was filled with unquestionable determination, and the dagger approached the emperor again, and the tip of the knife almost touched his chest. Just as the hair was so strong that a sudden sound of rapid pace came from afar. Then Minxian and Lin Haoran sounded, it's clear, we're here. The two of them rushed into the open space, covered in blood, and they obviously had a fierce battle. Lin Haoran's shoulders cracked again, and the blood stained half of his clothes, but he still grinned and slapped the long knife in his hand. Little girl, you're doing a pretty job. Minxian quickly came to Lin Xiaoqing's side, checked the surrounding situation, and said in a low voice, Xiqing, the reinforcements of the Forbidden Army were temporarily stopped, but they won't be delayed for too long. Fight quickly, otherwise we can't leave. Lin Xiao was sunny and a warm feeling surged in his heart. With the support of Minxian and Lin Haoran, she knew that this was the last opportunity and the most important battle. She took a deep breath, and the ultimate, 9 turns of heaven, that tweaked the graphic diagram in her brain. Her true atmosphere was one in her body, and each turn made her strength violently. After the 9th turn, her vigor was like a rainbow, her eyes shining everywhere, and her whole body seemed to be dispelling the fetus and changing the bones, emitting a sense of unparalleled pressure. The emperor looked at Lin Xiaoqing's changes and finally saw a flash of fear in his eyes. He tried to stand up, but he couldn't stand up because of the severe injury. He could only grit his teeth and shout angrily, who are you, such a monster? How could the Lin family have such martial arts? Lin Xiaoqing snorted coldly, and the sound was as pillomatic as ice. This is the inheritance of the Lin family, a picture you will never get. Today, I want to use it to send you to the ground. Before she finished speaking, her figure flashed, and she rushed towards the emperor like a ghost, and a short dagger brought a shadow, piercing his heart. The emperor's pupils suddenly shrank, and as he tried his best to lift the long slat in his hand. But his internal strength had been exhausted. The long sword was unable to withstand Lin Xiaoqing's dagger. He could only hear a ding sound. The long sword broke into 2 pieces. The dagger pierced into his chest without any obstacles, and the blood spurted out in an instant. Ah! The emperor let out a silence, his eyes sank, his face falling unwillingly, his breathing became faint. He raised his hand tremblingly, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he still hung down desperately, and his anger was finally lost. Lin Xiaoqing pulled out the dagger, and blood dripped down the tip of the knife. She stood beside the emperor's corpse, her chest undulating violently, and her revenge anger was finally released at this moment. She looked down at the emperor's body and murmured, "Dad, mother, brother. I've avenged you." The blood debt of the Lin family finally got back. Yanran fell to the ground with a slight slid down, and her voice choked, "Xiqing, you really killed him." Her eyes were filled with pain and thrusting, but she did not stop it, just lowered her head and covered her face and cried soundlessly. Lin Xiaoqing turned her head and looked at her, without a single sway in her eyes. "Yanran, I said that this is my revenge. Your blood has left my blood, and this account must be settled." After speaking, she turned to Minxian and Lin Haoran, and said in a low voice, "We have to leave quickly, the reinforcements of the Forbidden Army will arrive at any time." Minxian clicked her head and quickly took out a small package from the siege, which contained secret orders stolen from Xia Ting and some criminal documents from the court. She said in a low voice, "Xiqing, the emperor is dead, but this matter is not finished yet. These books record all the plans of the court to clear out the martial arts families, and also the evidence that the emperor and the martial arts forces are linked together. We must make these public so that the people in the world know the truth." Lin Haoran smiled and wiped the blood from his face. "Little girl, do a pretty job. Once this old man dies, the court will definitely be in trouble, and the pattern of the world will also change. I will hand these books over to me. I know a few big figures in the world and guarantee that they can spread all over the world." Lin Xiaoqing pointed his head and handed the book to Lin Haoran. Then he lowered his head and looked at the jade pendant on his waist, feeling mixed emotions. This picture is the inheritance of the Lin family and her biggest reliance on the road to revenge. But she knew that this power was too powerful and that if it fell into the hands of a bad person, it would only bring more disasters. She turned to Minxian and said lightly, "Sister, give this jade pendant to you. You are a godlike man, and you are kind-hearted. I can trust you. Studying this picture may benefit the world, but don't let it fall into the hands of the court or ambitious people." Minxian was stunned for a moment, then took the jade pendant seriously, and said, "Don't worry, I will keep it well. If I can learn anything about medicine or martial arts, I will definitely use it to protect the world and never make it a disaster." Lin Haoran looked at this scene, raised his eyebrows and smiled, "Little girl, I didn't expect you to have a big picture. After revenge, what are you going to fuck next? The world is so big, so there must be someone to go there, right?" Lin Xiaoqing was silent for a moment, raised her head and looked at the night sky far away, with a flash of slightness in her eyes. "Brother Haoran, I don't know. Revenge is my only goal this year, now, my heart is empty. However, I want to go and see how many people need to be guarded in this world. The Lin family has reported hatred, but I don't want more people like me, and their families are destroyed. Lin Haoran heard it, his eyes flashed softly, and he said lightly, okay, we will do it again when we have time. I am a person who is erratic and always wanders around the world, and I may meet you again one day. Lin Xiaoqing smiled and said, okay, just say it. There was a little relaxed in her smile, and there seemed to be a little bit of inexplicable feelings when she had a relationship with Lin Haoran, but she didn't say much, but just turned around and walked away. At the same time, Lin Haoran handed over the literature to several great sects in the world, and the emperor's crimes quickly spread throughout the world. The court fell into chaos due to the emperor's death, and the power officials fought endlessly. In the world, countless martial arts families learned the truth, and joined forces to fight against the pressure of the court. For a while, the pattern of the world and the court changed drastically. Although the conflict was still there, at least the righteous voice began to rise, and those innocent victims finally got the news. A few days later, Lin Xiaoqing stood alone on the hillside outside the imperial city, looking out at the towering city. The wind blew over her long hair, bringing a sense of mercy. She lowered her head and looked at the last thing she had taken from her home, an old jade squid left by her mother, and a warm and sour feeling surged in her heart. As soon as she walked to the forefront, she finally realized that although hatred drove her forward, her true growth was to learn to let go and use her own strength to protect more people. Dad, Mom, I did it. She murmured lightly, then carefully put the jade pendant away and turned away. Her back was long and firm under the sun, as if telling this world that she was no longer just the girl full of hatred, but a new guardian. Min Xian stayed in the city and began to study graphic pictures, hoping to find medical and martial arts that benefit the world. Lin Haoran continued his career as a prodigal son, and occasionally heard news about Lin Xiaoqing, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. And Lin Xiaoqing embarked on a new journey, and the world was so big that there was always something needed. As the sun sets west, Lin Xiaoqing's steps are coming from the mountain path. She knew that the future was still full of unknowns, but this time, she was no longer blinded by hatred, but walked towards her future with a guardian heart.